Welcome back ladies and gents. Today we're going to explain the anime series called ROKKA Braves of the Six Flowers. A mysterious man named Adler came to Vienna to prove himself in front of the goddess of fate. In order to become a brave, he interrupted the semi-final match between two warriors in the holy tournament that chooses braves, proclaiming to be the strongest man in the world. The royal guards tried to stop Adler, but he took them out. Afterwards he fought two warriors and incapacitated them both before being captured by more guards and thrown into jail. While in jail, a maid sneaked inside to meet Adler. She was impressed by his fight and asked him about his fighting style, philosophy and his goal to become one of the six flowers of the brave. Adler replied that he believed he'd become a brave, one of the six chosen warriors to fight the demon god, and that he wishes to fight alongside Princess Nashatania. If she were to be chosen as a brave, he's then moved to an isolated prison cell in a pit for many days and nights. Adler remained in the dark pit with barely any food or water. Some weeks later the braves were chosen and Adler received the crest of the six flowers on his right hand. The maid arrived, revealed to be the princess. Matched Adler surprise and rescued him from his cell. Nashatania showed him her own crest just below her collarbone on her chest. She freed him from his sound at the expense of her own soldiers, trapping them in the same pit that they had thrown Adler in. They both fled from Vienna and began heading west on horseback towards the land of the howling demons to meet the other braves and defeat the demon god. For several days Adler and Nashatania got to know each other through talk and play, though there was a small incident in when Nashatania got too serious in her play and nearly skewered him with her swords. Upon rebuking her, Adler found out about her mischievous nature and she pretended to be saddened and scared of his anger towards her. He was also able to see how her abilities worked in her free-spiritedness, which exasperated him. Nonetheless, they began to grow closer, but when a village in their path was attacked by Kyoma, Adler and Nashatania rushed to their defense and were able to fight together briefly. However, as they were escorting villagers away, Adler learned of a single girl who had stayed behind. Nashatania implored Adler that their mission to defeat the demon god was more important than helping one girl and being possibly killed by a Kyoma before then. Unable to do so, Arnold went on ahead of her, leaving Nashatania to defend the villagers against any remaining Gyarma. Upon reaching the village, Arthur was surprised to find a number of Gilmer corpses and a board of iron as the only evidence. Then he found a girl with white hair and black clothing helping a dog and its young pup, setting them free. Frami tells Adler to leave her alone, stating that she must fight the margin by herself. However, Arnold chases her until she's forced to travel together with him. He sends a message to Nashatania with his horse telling her he found another of the six braves and to continue towards the peninsula where the margin is. Without him, Arnold and Frami eventually run into a fortress where soldiers explain to them about a barrier that should help the braves in a nearby temple. As Adler and Frami continue to travel, they're suddenly attacked by Nashatania and Goldoff, with Nashatania warning Adler to stay away from Frami as Frami and Nashatania fight from a distance. Goldoff charges at the former. Arda tries to stop him, but Goldoff pushes him aside, trying to end the fight. That shouts to them all to stop and says that Frami is not their enemy since she's also one of the braves. Nashatania and Gold offer surprise and info Arnold that Frami is the brave killer. Frami doesn't deny and confirms that she is indeed the killer. She then names some of her victims. She then says that Goldoff and Nashatania are also her targets. While aiming her gun at them, Adler asks if Leona was also her target, but Frami answers that she was, but that she didn't know what happened to her. Arnold then asks her why she killed all the potential braves, and Frami replies that the margin could return if only weak warriors remain to be chosen as braves. Gondolf and Nashatani are now convinced she is their enemy and are about to kill Frami when Adler blocks them. He refuses to believe that someone trying to revive the margin would be chosen as a brave and says that he'll side with Frami if he has to fight. Nashatania finally decides to agree with Adler and tells Goldoff that they'll stop fighting. She then informs Frami that she still doesn't believe her and that she only trusts Adler. As the group head for Mora, they noticed several flying Kyoma heading for the temple. The braves rushed to the temple but are blocked by a different group of Gyama. As they battle, Nashatania instructs Adler to go ahead to the temple. When Ada reaches the temple, he notices an injured priestess. He turns to help her, but she tells him to hurry inside. Adler tries to open the door, but it doesn't open, so he blasts it open with some explosives. Immediately afterwards, two armored soldiers exit from the inside and attack Adler, who, surprised, Arthur tries to ask the priestess what happened, but she's actually a shape-shifting Kyamar who escapes. After defeating the soldiers who turn out to be just suits of armor, Adhar feels a cold sense of dread before entering the temple. The notices mist appearing from the ground, fearing someone had already activated the barrier. Ardlet then enters the activation chamber only to discover that his fear had come true when he notices the sword already in the pedestal. He looks around the room but doesn't find anyone else inside. Nasitania, Frami and Goldoff arrive and Nasitania asks Arnold why he activated the barrier. I'd like to insist it wasn't him and that someone else activated it and then disappeared while the group tries to figure out what's happened. Goldoff decides to turn off the barrier and removes the sword, but Frami says that the fog's still there. Ardlet tries to turn it off by cutting his hand, dripping his blood on the pedestal and reciting barrier release, but nothing changes. Nasitania then panics, grabbing the sword and attacking the pedestal, shouting barrier release and that she was the owner of the barrier while breaking the slab. Frami stops her, telling her that there's no point in panicking. When they hear footsteps, Chiamo arrives and asks what happened when she recognizes the members of the group except for Adlet. Other asks her who she is and Chiamo introduces herself and announces that she was also chosen as a brave. Chiamo then decides that they should start killing Frami, who also prepares for a fight, but Adler and Nashitani has stopped them. Mora arrives, wondering what the group is arguing over when she realizes Wakiyama was about to start a fight. Mora then orders Kiyamo to stop and tells the group that there's an outsider amongst them when she reveals that she'd been traveling with a man she met the day before, Hans, who's also a brave. Ardlet orders everyone to show their crest and they realize there are 7 of them. Mora tells the group the story of the saint of the single flower who split her power into 6 for each of the braves so that it was impossible for there to be more or less than 6 braves. Arnold and Hans went outside to find an escape to the barrier, but unfortunately they went in circles. When they were back they saw Frami cuffed and tied as the initial 7th brave and the prime suspect of the activation of the barrier. Mora then suggested to introduce themselves in order to gather more information about each other. During Frami's introduction she revealed herself as a half-human half-cure, my entity born from a human father and a cure, my mother. Adler then explains his side of the story, but Han saw a flaw in it, like those locked room mysteries, therefore making him the prime suspect. Adler in his confusion and anxiety took Frami as his hostage, poisoned her to keep her unconscious and escaped the temple, but Hans managed to throw a dagger at him, slowing him down. He then passed out because of the blood loss. While escaping, while he was down, he remembered how he went to his master Arthro Spica and begged to take him as a student. His first lesson was to smile in despair. As he regained his consciousness he noticed that he had bandages and Framing patched him up. They both talked about their past, and as it opened up to each other he then speculated that there might be an 8th brave who helped the 7th and he needed to find that out to prove his innocence. Arthur told Frami about his past, on how he was taught to fight and even learn science by Arthro Spiker, his master. He also talked about a lizard-like humanoid Kyoma who had 3 wings who went to their village when he was young. Frami then confirmed that it was the same Kyoma who convinced her mother to give birth to her. Frami then told her story that her mother had pretended to love her and then tried to kill her after Framing disappointed her, making her furious of her kind and wanting to kill the margin out of revenge. They then parted ways and Framing headed back to the others. Inside the temple the braves devised a plan to capture and kill Ardlet as they split into groups. To search for Ardlet he went to the temple where he was attacked by Hans. Ardlet was able to escape but then engage in a battle with Hans in the forest. Ardlet is trying to convince Hans somehow that he's not the 7th, but Hans still suspects him as Ada tries to trick Hans he didn't kill him when he had the chance to prove that he's not the imposter. Hans then told Adler that he's the 7th brave, slicing his throat open. Adler then realized that it was a hallucination and Hans decided to believe in him, as he saw his dying reaction, which would be different had he been an imposter. Meanwhile speculated that Hans might be the 7th brave and is asking Goldoff for help and to trust that Outlet is innocent. Adlet and Hans went back to the temple to find clues, but Chiamo was outside and decided that she was bored of waiting, so she would just kill everyone to see if they were the traitor, attacking both of them by summoning her Jumma. Ardlet and Hans battled Chiamo, but her fiends would always regenerate, making them hard to incapacitate. Then they thought of incapacitating Chiamo to stop the fiends. It was a success and they captured Chiamo. They asked her if she knew anything about the activation of the barrier and she nodded no. Arda went to search for more clues and used the bomb that Frami gave to give a signal to her. Framing noticed and met each other. Adler hypothesized about a saint's involvement in the matter and their possible uses, but Frami rebuked them back at the temple. Hans told Mora And Kayamo the same thing, but Mora refused to take them. Meanwhile, Nashitani confirms with Goldoff if someone died by checking her crest. Arthur Tom Frammy his hypothesis about the seventh and then confessed he loves her, but it made her more doubtful, thinking the other is trying to deceive her. Hans told Mora and Chiamo the same hypothesis, which made Mora call for Nashitani and Goldoff using her powers. She told them that Hans was severely injured by Adlet, making Nashitania snap, and furious to have trusted and defended him, Framey pursued the escaping outlet and made a signal to the others of their location. Mora caught up and the three engaged in a battle, but then oddly surrendered and convinced Mora about Framey's innocence so the others wouldn't suspect her if he dies. Murin tried to kill Adler, but Framing decided to believe Ardlet and stopped Mora. Arthur and Framey then escaped but were cornered by Nashitani and Goldoff, who were also out to kill Adler because of Mora's lie. Arthur and Framey were cornered by Mora, Nashitani, and Goldoff. Arthur started running back to the temple to meet with Hans while Framey backed him up, but Mora and Goldoff stopped Framey and Nashitania pursued and incapacitated Arnold. In the process he felt the chills as Nashitania gave the final blow and blocked her weapon using his hands and kicked her to escape. Gordon followed him until they went back to the place where they fought the Kayamars near the temple as Goldoff, Nashitania, Mora, and the captured Frame. He got back together. Nashitania was shocked to see Kyama with Hans alive and well, realizing Mora had lied about Adler injuring him. She then apologized to Arthur for attacking him and finally made a conclusion as to how the imposter might have done it. His theory involved the Sun State Leona being kidnapped and forced to raise the temperature for over a week. As soon as one of the Braves opened the temple, they killed her, dropping the temperature and causing the fog, and then Akayoma ate her body to hide it. Hans was able to find the body to prove Art that was right in his theory and leaving only one person as the possible seventh. Arthur confirmed that Mora might have been the seventh Brave if his deductions were correct, but Gyama rebuked his conclusion. She and Hans were able to find copies of the tablet and tools that might have been used for the real activation of the barrier. On the second tablet were instructions to reactivate the fog barrier, which was by removing the knife and shattered tablet. Drip blood all over the stand, say the words and break the tablet. This made everyone think that the person who broke the tablet was the seventh Brave. Framing confirmed that it was Nashitania who did so, and everyone was surprised by deduction. Arthur also thought that the person who sent him to the temple was the one who planned everything from the very beginning, and it was her, as he confirmed it. She then surrendered and claimed that she really is the seventh Brave, and Goldoff was shocked by the revelation. Nashitania told them she wanted to kill them all because she believed that humans and Kayamars could live together in peace, but around 500,000 humans might die in the process. Arnold then ordered everyone to kill her, but she escapes. He fainted due to the loss of blood. As he regains consciousness, Mora apologizes to him for thinking he was the seventh and trying to kill him. She also took care of his wounds. After resting, they all went outside to continue their travel to fight the Margin, but to their surprise they meet Rolonia, Ardor's childhood friend and the Saint of Blood, who apologized for being late because of the fog and claiming that she's one of the Braves, showing her crest. During the confusion, troops from Gwenbai went to the temple to tell everyone that more than 1,000 Kyomas were coming to the temple. They decided to stop trying to find out who was the seventh and started traveling to the Wailing Demon territory, asking the troops to reactivate the barrier after they left. So this is it for today's video. If you like the video, give it a huge thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Farewell till next time.